Well, hello, everybody.
Hello. Okay, so let's introduce this. We are live talking about navigating Niddah, and we're coming from different perspectives, but we overlap, intersect in so many ways. So, my work as a fertility awareness educator, well, we're both college teachers. That's how we know each other. We trained together with Rachel program. I'm also a fertility awareness educator. Rikki is also an occupational therapist. And we end up working a lot with nervous system regulation, which is a topic we're going to talk a lot about, because it's very connected to the cycle. Like, I just did a 30-day challenge, Regulate with Your Cycle. It was incredible because the cycle itself holds such regulating tools. Like the post that we put out yesterday about Niddah actually popping out of nowhere, and then how are you dealing with that? Like, those are actual real life regulation tools. Like, well,
Right.
that
And
is
I
so
think
good.
that really speaks to just getting an understanding of what emotional regulation is and what
Yeah.
emotional regulation is not. Because I think there's maybe a narrative out there, or even people think that emotional regulation means you don't feel anything, or that your feelings don't bother you, or that you're able to suppress everything and be okay or always be fine. And that
Right.
is not emotional regulation. That's emotional suppression. What
Mhm.
emotional regulation really means is that I feel things very much. I feel all the feelings. And I am also able to modulate and control how that comes out and what I put out into the world. And I can kind of modulate my output to match my values. And that's really what emotional regulation is. It's not saying, "Oh, I'm not disappointed. It's fine. The gam's over. Everything's great." No, it's I'm really disappointed, and I'm upset, and I'm frustrated, and I'm a little bit embarrassed. And I'm also going to keep my head around me, keep troubleshooting, keep trying to figure it out, and keep moving along. And
Yeah.
that's really what emotional regulation is. And the tools of emotional regulation are not about suppressing the feelings. The
Yeah.
tools are I feel it and I can name it and I can embody it and live it and continue to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And another misconception that came up a lot when I was doing the 30-day challenge was people thinking that that regulation means they're going to be calm all the time, happy all the time, feeling amazing all the time, and that's not what it is either. It is the ups and downs. It is, think about the cycle. We have different phases and we're being in different ways.
Right.
And what that balance is how we're showing up, how we're being in what this phase is and what this phase offers us, and who we're becoming through it, which is a lot about the topic of Niddah, and it's a transformational process. I don't think people realize this. So what happens with, I think people have a misconception around Niddah that it's um, first of all, the whole point is mikvah. The whole point is getting to the other side, and like everything in between, everything before that is just like something to get through, something to
Right.
like just hold your breath. Like, I think hold your breath. I'm a breath facilitator as well. So hold your breath is like the like way to describe how it feels like for so many people. And what we're really allowing in here is like, no, actually release and be in it. Actually receive what this time has to offer and move through it,
Mm-hmm.
because every day is, we were in training and we were learning just the halachas in a different way. We
Mm-hmm.
were going through the counting of the Shiva Nakim, right? The 7 days to mikvah. And this hit me then, and I speak about it a lot with it comes up with Sphere as well, counting from Mount Torah. Anytime we're counting, like, what's the point? Where time is going to pass, whether we're counting it or not. And the point is really the consciousness. Like, yes, time is there, but it's not really living through you if you're not if you're not consciously connected to it, if you're not actually bringing it into your life actively. Receiving is
Right.
not something that we passively do that's just like happening to us. It's actually something that we
Mm-hmm.
bring in consciously. And a lot of this is, okay, you're counting the days. You know each day matters. You know each part, each phase matters.
Right.
So,
Right. No, absolutely. It's really true. It's not like a holding pattern. It
yeah.
has its own value. And when we can tap into the value of each part of the cycle each time, so it's not like this is where I gain and this is where I wait to gain. No, no, no. I
You're
can.
gaining here too. You're gaining every minute. Yeah.
Right. There's value to be had at every, kind of stage along the way. And knowing what those values are is important. I think that's a lot of the work that you do, is just teaching people this is what this time is for.
Right. We
Right.
have to
And this is
know
what
the
this
value
time
to
is
know what
for.
we're available to receive. Exactly.
Right. We can
That's the first
receive, we
step.
can give, we can be, we can
Mhm.
we can grow, all that stuff can happen at every stage.
I think we should clarify the word receiving.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because we're saying you receive what this moment has to offer, receive what this phase has to offer, and I think it's not a word that people really understand what it means. It's like it's not taking, it's not about giving or taking. It's not in that sense. It's being present with this moment. So if you're present, let's say you're in a field and there's fresh air and there's trees around you and you're loving the nature and you're breathing into it, that being present in that, you're receiving everything this experience has to offer you, right? Versus, so again, a nice field of nature might be like feeling like a dreamy state where you can actually be with that, but you can be with that in anything. You can be with that when you're like, cooking supper in your kitchen and, inhaling the smells and being present with the process. Again, it's not something that happens like because I tell you to be present. It's like a process that you're really little step by step, 1% shift over and over. That's why the cycle is so powerful, because the cycle keeps happening over and over. So each time you're in this phase again, like even this, I didn't do a live in a long time, so it was like a little bit of a hiccup, and it was a while before I did it, but like I remember like the first time like I spoke publicly or did a class or a live, right? Like I was nervous. Now, like again, not to like boast for myself, but like the nervous system calms down with different things that you do over and over and over again. You're more used to it. You're more able to like show up in a different way, and the cycle is kind of that repetition. So yeah, someone that's newly married 5 months is going to have a very different experience with Niddah than someone that's married 20 years, obviously. But then there are still people 20 years later struggling a lot with this time as well, right? So that's one aspect, but there are a lot of other layers as well.
Right. Now, and, we talk about receiving, right? Receiving is a state of openness. Receiving is a state of I am open to connecting either to other people, connecting to myself, connecting to the world around me, connecting to these energies. To be open, you have to be in a state of autonomic safety, right? You cannot be in a state of fight or flight. You cannot be perceiving threat, because when you're perceiving threat, just survival tells you have to close off to whatever's happening. Even if you kind of know it's a good thing, you still have to be closed to whatever that is. Now, autonomic safety is a learned experience, right? When something's happening that we are unsure about, some people are tuned more to safety based on their experiences. Some people are tuned more to fight or flight based on their experiences. But even people who are tuned to fight or flight, we learn safety through repetition. We also learn threat through repetition. So the parts of our brain that, decide these things are learning parts. They're not really, they're experiential parts. They're not really informational parts. Yeah. So when someone goes through a Niddah cycle, and during Niddah time, they're very dysregulated. They feel very lonely. They feel very abandoned. They feel rejected. All the things that we hear so often, right? So their brain starts to learn that Niddah is a time of threat that needs a fight or flight response to be okay and to get through. Right. But when we can start learning what safety feels like during Niddah, then we can start living in more safety. And it's little by little, but each month that we go through with a little bit more safety, our brain stops putting out that fight or flight response as quickly until we can really learn each month to get closer and closer to that state of safety and that state of openness where we can be available to receive, whatever is happening. Again, whether it's from a husband, whether it's from ourselves, whether it's from whatever the world is sending us, we can be open to receive that because we have practiced so many times.
Yeah.
And that's why it is so much harder in the beginning, because that is not something we ever have an opportunity to practice. Exactly. It's a brand new experience.
But I'll tell you one thing. Imagine girls are connected to their cycle even before they're married. So separate from the Niddah experience, being in their cycle and all the different phases and being validated in everything that each phase has to offer, which is not, hopefully people are doing this more and more, and especially the women that I teach are definitely doing this with their daughters. But the idea that it's okay to be, a little more moody before your period. Right. I started talking about this on a reel, like understanding what happens biologically in your body. The physical, emotional, and spiritual are not separate. It's one reality that's being reflected on different levels. So, and Niddah really honors that in so many beautiful ways. But the physiological aspect of, an egg being released, the potential for new life, and it's not just about like getting pregnant, having a baby. It's life force. It's this creativity that's rising through you. It's this like energy. And then there is a fall. Like your hormone, if you look at a hormone chart of a cycle, it literally drops after ovulation. So it's so normal. I used to feel this like viscerally, like in the beginning when I first got into this work, like my premenstrual phase was, like literally like chaos. And I would feel this drop. And no, when I got into the actual understanding it better, understanding what happens in my body, I was like, oh, I'm literally feeling that drop. Like that's like a week before the cycle, a week before my period comes. It's like, whoa. And expecting that, anticipating that, and preparing for that, and caring for myself, because it's about turning inward and understanding what we need in those times, helped so much in so many different ways. But imagine a girl already understands this from 12, 13, whenever she gets her cycles, earlier or later, whatever it is, she understands that she's moving in a cyclical rhythm, that she's like the moon, that sometimes her light shines brighter, sometimes she leans more inward. Then when the time we get to marriage and introduced to Taharat HaMishpacha, again, it's still going to be an adjustment, but it's an understanding of, wait, this practice actually validates this experience. Like there's a real loss happening here. The blood is physically representing a loss that happened, and it's like a touch of death, and that's the deeper layers of Taman Tahara is related to that part, and your being with your body experience. So it has nothing to do with like if you're trying to get pregnant or not. It's nothing to do with, and obviously it's even more painful when you're in that state, and period comes over and over, and Niddah had all those layers as well. Physiologically and emotionally, like they're all connected. So honoring that is so powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to share a story. I've shared this before. I shared this with you last night. I think it really speaks to the idea of the loss, but still being open to the possibilities. So when I was married, I think it was about 2 years, my husband and I were going through some medical treatments, and we knew we had about 2 weeks before I'd be getting my period. And it was a very stressful time. So we planned this amazing trip to Niagara Falls. We had never really been on a trip before together, and we were on our way. And we had, made it a really nice, trip. We got a beautiful hotel room, and it was right over the fall. It was going to just be a really connective experience. And we're driving up from Muncie, so we're about halfway there. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the car, and I get that feeling. I'm like, no, 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 no. This cannot be. This cannot be, because I have a calendar and I have a schedule, and this cannot be, and that's not what's happening. And I just went into this complete state of no, that's not what's happening, until it gets to the point where you cannot deny this anymore. And I remember we were standing somewhere, and I told him that I just got my period, and I don't know what we're gonna do. So aside from the fact that getting my period at that time was really not like gonna work in anything good for us, we had this whole trip planned. We had this hotel room booked. We had all the, different activities planned. And I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home. I didn't see any point of, staying out anymore and doing anything. And it was a very dark time. And my husband said, listen, we could turn the car around. We can go home. We're only halfway there. He said, or, we're not just like husband and wife in that kind of physical romantic way. We're best friends, and best friends can go on a trip together and have a really, really nice time. He's like, so I'm happy to go home, but I'm also happy to go to Niagara Falls with my best friend.
Wow.
I said, you know what? You're my best friend too, and I'm also happy to go to Niagara Falls with my best friend. And we just took a minute. So first of all, we took a minute. We just stood there for a minute and processed what had happened, the various steps that had to be taken. But then also we switched our hotel room. We switched some of the things that we had planned, and we just changed our mindset, right? We're getting out of this, romantic getaway kind of mindset, and we're getting into two friends who have not stopped talking for 2 years and are going to have this week together of just fun and nice time. And we made up our mind that we were going to be open to receiving what this experience was going to be, even though it was not the experience that we had planned. And we had a wonderful, wonderful time together. And, this was 25 years ago at this point. Life has thrown many challenges and curveballs and all kinds of things. But that experience, aside from turning something that was really difficult and painful into a really objectively good experience, it also taught us that we are best friends and we can always choose to embody the space that is right for now. And that was a lesson we learned then, and we really still live that. And he much more than me. He's much better at that than me. He teaches me and schleps me along. But it really speaks to, we can be open to receiving whatever any particular moment gives us, not just the best pieces of the best moments. And I think that that's something that, periods come at ridiculous, unexpected times and can ruin vacations, but it doesn't have to ruin the vacation. It may just need to adjust the vacation. And any part of life, right?
It's so powerful that you shared that. I heard this from you last night and I was getting chills then, and now even as I'm hearing it the second time, it's like literally chills. And it's so powerful for people to hear this, because I get this all the time. This is one of the biggest questions. Like, what if I have to plan a vacation? Or I literally am planning a vacation, or this literally happened. And you didn't like negate the emotion. I think that's the key to regulation. We're not negating the hardship here, the challenge of what's actually coming up. And at the same time, it brought you to a closer place, not because you denied what's happening, not because you just were like, sugarcoating the hard part and let's just, whatever, we'll just deal with it. Let's just have a good time. It wasn't like that. It was validating each part of the experience and still coming out, like looking back at the memory, it's all mostly positive, right?
Yeah.
And it's literally that, like, what is this moment offering? What is this moment giving us? And it's, even as we're saying, I feel like it's so cheap just to talk it, because it's not about talking a talk. It's like you're sharing your story, like living it, like being with it. That's the only way to practicing this. To practicing this, it's not about like, hearing a nice class and being inspired and like, okay, now I hope your Niddah process changes just through this conversation. That's our hope. But also, don't be surprised if it's like, no, there's actually practice involved. There's actually like, your body doesn't just believe words you say. Like, there's this whole thing about like, affirmations, and let's just like tell our mind what to believe. And okay, there's some truth to that, but like, it's so much more powerful when the body actually experiences something. That's the real process of where your reality changes, because you're living something different, because you're giving yourself something different.
Right. So maybe we can talk about that. What are some ways that people can go through that Niddah, maybe separation process, and still very practically live embodied in their experience, feel whatever emotions may come up, and still be in that regulated place of being open to connection, the connection that is still there, that has not been taken away with their husband, but also that deep connection with themselves, with their own, moment and place where they are.
So let's make this practical. I mean, we both do this in our work, right? Like, you see clients dealing with this all the time. I see it in my clients. I also have a Secrets of Niddah immersion coming up next week that literally walks you through this process. So let's talk about what actually that looks like. Like, you can say, let's say a client comes in with this challenge, and then I can take it away with my perspective as well.
Sure. So I didn't really introduce what I do. So for those who don't know me, hi, I'm Rikki Spivak. So I'm a college teacher. I'm also a sex and intimacy occupational therapist. So that is OT that focuses specifically on the daily living task of intimacy. So I work with women, I work with couples, really helping them achieve whatever sort of intimate experience that they are having trouble working through. And whether that's pain related, we'll work through that. Whether it's logistical, we'll work through that. And whether it's emotional, we'll, work with that within the scope of my my licensure. So a thing that happens very often is, that common experience that so many people have, that you mentioned, just that feeling of, we are disconnected, we are lost, I am floating, and now I just have to wait, however many days it is until I can resume my life and my relationship. Right. So, one of the things that we talk about when we talk about emotionally regulating through this is, step one is to recognize that all the feelings, the feeling of loss, the feeling of separation, the feeling of, rejection, or anything, that has to have a space, right? You can't say, I shouldn't be I shouldn't. I don't use the word should. Should is like the worst word. But I don't. All feelings are valid things because they are happening.
Yeah.
But the thing
the present, with the present moment was what it
right. Is. Right. The thing that's so important to realize is that feelings really do not last a very long time. Feelings are chemical and electrical impulses in your brain. They literally last 90 seconds. That's how long a feeling lasts. If your feeling's lasting longer, it's because your thoughts keep re-triggering the feeling. But the initial, that feeling is a 90-second thing. So sometimes we'll do a little activity where someone's sitting in the chair in front of me and we'll bring something up and that feeling comes up. And the impulse is to keep pushing it down. I don't want to feel that. It's a bad feeling. I'm going to get so sad. I'm going to get so depressed. But each time you push it down, it still needs to be felt. So it starts coming up again, and now it's getting, and you keep restarting this 90-second clock, but you can restart a 90-second clock for 30 years, over and over and over again. I'm like, can we create enough safety around this feeling that I can set a timer for 90 seconds? You don't let it feel, sit, cry if you need to, but could we just sit with this feeling for 90 seconds and see what happens? And sometimes the feeling is too much and too overwhelming, and they feel like they're going to drown. And then, okay, we'll wait. But sometimes it's not too much. And I literally set a timer for 90 seconds, and we just sit there quietly. I don't say anything. I'm not trying to make them feel better. And what these women are actively doing is actively feeling the feeling. And really, after 90 seconds, it's done. And I say it's like waves at the ocean. It crashes onto the shore, and then it's over.
And the next time this feeling comes, your body recognizes the cycle of this emotion, and it's easier to navigate.
Right. You know that you have the strength and resources to handle it.
And it's safe to feel it.
It's safe to feel it. Because so much, I see so much of the stress and the pain and the anxiety around emotions is not even the emotion itself. It's that I won't be able to handle the emotion. I'm going to break down. I'm going to melt down. I'm going to fall apart. But when you see that I actually won't, I'll be okay, then the emotion is not so scary. And now you could take fear out of the equation. And now you're just dealing with sadness. And sadness is hard. But it's also okay. It's okay. It's a legitimate feeling, and it goes away. It ends. Sadness has an end. Loss has an end. Disappointment has an end. And then you just moved on. And you could be ready for the next thing that's coming.
You didn't just move past, you moved through.
Right. You move through. The wave has crashed upon the shore. And more waves are coming. We are emotional people. We keep experiencing new ones. But that one's done. And maybe the next one that comes will be easier. The next one comes. So that's the first tool that I think is so important, is to just let the feelings happen. The only way out is through. Let it happen. Don't be afraid of it. And 90 seconds is a lot, but it's not forever. Limited time. And then you can move on to the next thing. So that's the first tool that I teach.
And you could take that straight into the cycle itself. I mean, 90 seconds is nothing compared to like 12 days. But also the biggest teaching from the cycle that I received was this too shall pass. Like, we know this intellectually, but on a body level, like, my body knows. I've had many cycles in my life. Like, it always passed. It was never, like, I never stayed there forever. Right. And this knowledge, this being present with, if we can give everyone here like an assignment for your next Niddah process. Okay, not always is 12 days. Maybe you're postpartum, maybe you have different stages in life, whatever it is. Maybe it's longer. But let's say you're talking about a regular cycle, Niddah 5+7, whatever it is. Some people have different opinions around that. But let's say then the 12 days, just for the sake of having one number here, passes, number one, but also how are you being in those 12 days? So first of all, the first 5 days is a whole different phase than the 7 days of counting, right? So understanding the phases of the cycle and what each phase offers. So let's say the 5 days of menstruation. Again, just using that number. You could be bleeding for less or more, whatever it is. What is bleed? Like, can you be with your bleed? People like just freak out from, and again, you don't have to like love your blood. It's okay. But can you be with that process of release? Like, literally something is releasing from your body. And with that, everything that you're ready to let go of, like, just make it that somatic process, because it literally is. There's so much releasing physically, emotionally, and spiritually through this process. And like the moon renews every month, we are renewed, not because all of a sudden it's brand new, it's because we're letting go. There's a death and a rebirth. So yes, there is that process. That's why I said it before. It's so normal to feel down the last few days before your period, because your body is literally, like, your cycle is dying down and getting ready to be reborn. So honoring and holding that process. Again, you're the container. You're not your cycle. You're not your menstruation. You're not your ovulation. You're not your follicular phase. You're not any of it. You are the container that's holding it, and it's moving through you, right? So just like an emotion is moving through you, you're the vessel that's holding it, and you're being with what's moving through you. So if you can practice one time, one cycle, being like this 90-second cycle, but like this 12-day cycle of Niddah, being present with it, being in your body. And we do this, like in Secrets of Niddah, I guide you through this a lot. Like, okay, so how can you be present with your menstruation? How can you be present with your counting and your estrogen literally rising, your energy rising, like how you're actually embodying this through this process? Try it for one cycle. And then you're already teaching your nervous system this process. So imagine how, like, you don't have to commit to a lifetime of changing anything, right, but just giving yourself one process and already feeling safer in your body through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And each time it gets that tiny bit easier, that tiny bit more accessible. Until
and then you look back 5 years later, like, oh,
wow, I'm a different person. Right, I'm a different person through this. Yes. Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely.
I find the biggest challenge that many women have with Taharat HaMishpacha is the disconnection from their body, the disembodiment. Because really, and this is what I came to because of my work. Like, this didn't happen. I didn't wake up when I decided, you know what, I want to be a college teacher. I want to explore Taharat HaMishpacha. Like, it was never on my radar. What happened was, I mean, the cycle wasn't ever on my radar, but that came first. Like, the wisdom of the cycle came into my life in a very beautiful way. Like, it was a painful way through my own experience, obviously. Like, I was struggling with it a lot until I realized, like, hey, I don't want to be a victim to my hormones. There has to be a different way, and it opened me to explore things a little bit differently. Story for another day. But what I wanted to say is that through being embodied with my cycle, through understanding the different phases, through understanding the physical process my body is moving through and how that's reflecting emotionally and spiritually as well, automatically, like, I didn't even plan for this, my Taharat HaMishpacha experience shifted tremendously. Like, I was more present with each phase. I was more receiving what each moment had to offer, what each part of the cycle, the Niddah process, the Niddah phase, the Taharat phase, like, each one had, it's not one is worse, one is better, like, each one has different things to offer. And being present with it, then I realized, like, hey, this is such a gift, like, this embodiment. And what if Taharat HaMishpacha is there to connect us to our bodies as women? Because the way the menstrual cycle is introduced in the Torah is the way of women. Like, this is the way of women, how we move through the world, how we connect, how we are present with ourselves, how we balance our own needs and the needs of others. Like, that's always, like, there's so much balance involved in, like, our lives, like, everything that we have to take care of. And this really helps us center ourselves. And it is the way of women. And what if Taharat HaMishpacha is this framework of being connected to ourselves in this way, but because in our day and age, it's like an epidemic where we're not connected? What if that's the conflict? Like, that's the struggle of, like, oh, I'm not connecting my body this way. This halacha is telling me to be, but I'm not there. And, like, I'm just resentful and it's just hard. And the problem becomes the halacha. But what is it really bringing to you? What is it really offering you? What is really here for you? And sometimes we can't see it because we're totally not in that place of this embodied connection, of actually understanding what the cycle even is, what this time offers. And there's just a lot of disconnection there. And again, going back to what I said before, it's really not a light switch. It's really not a light switch. Like, I don't want anyone to come off here expecting to, like, magically, like, from 1 minute to the next, their Niddah experience is going to be amazing. They're going to love every minute, love every part of it. And this is a process. But the more we can open ourselves to understanding what each part of it, and I feel like we're going a little bit in circles. Maybe we can break it down more of, like, what each, like, I was just talking to someone because my Secrets of Niddah immersion focuses specifically on the Niddah phase. And the reason I do that is because there's a lot of resources out there around mikvah, around, intimacy, that part. Like, I didn't feel the need to focus on it so much. I know you work with intimacy a lot as well, right? But I did find that, like, what came up a lot was, oh, some people had the opposite struggle. Like, okay, Niddah is Niddah. And then it's like, okay, but then getting back together is a real struggle for them, right? So everyone is, and what I really find with the cycle itself, it's where your struggle is. That's the invitation. Get to know what that part. Like, let's say some people, like, I had a struggle with the premenstrual phase, so that was my biggest teacher. Some people have a struggle with, like, right after ovulation, or right before ovulation, or in the follicular phase, the Shiva Nakim. Like, what is that phase giving you? So, for example, if someone has a physical reaction, like a antsiness, let's call it, when they're after their period, counting to mikvah, right? So there is the religious aspect, perhaps, but there's also this energetic or physical aspect even of being nervous about like coming into your fullness almost. I don't know if that makes perfectly sense, but like there's a tension that you might feel like this is an invitation to what is opening in your life, what is a challenge in your life, what is like any trigger, any symptom, like a physical symptom, an emotional trigger, a challenge, a struggle. It's really, and this is like such a different way of looking at it, and it's hard when you're like in a painful place and like really you just want to be validated first. And yes, be validated first. Like if you're not ready to go there, don't go there yet. But looking back at all the times in my life when I was in that place, and even in the present moment when I am in those kind of places, that's the doorway. Like the pain is the portal. The challenge is the trigger is the teacher. Like that's really the way I look at it. And it's when we have this perspective of like, okay, let's say you have a physical symptom. Let's say you have physical pain somewhere in your body. Like that's something to go look into. Like what is it telling you? Right? It's a message. So when we look at these things as the messengers, like, do you want to stay in the struggle as a struggle in and of itself, or do you want to look at it as like, okay, curiosity, openness, receiving, right? Like as we were saying. So there's a lot here. I feel like I just like took a whole masterclass and like tried to pilot into 2 minutes, and there's so much more depth than what we were able to give here, but like the basic concept.
Right. Now, and I think that what you're speaking to is very true of finding the place of pain to, you know, the way our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, our fight or flight systems work is very pattern based, right? It works very quickly. It's that instantaneous response. So it really can't take in a whole lot of information and make assessments and decisions. It very quickly compares what is happening right now to previous patterns that it has learned in the past. So, and it all happens speed of light, like really, really fast. And we're not supposed to notice it. We are not supposed to be aware of fight or flight, really. We're just supposed to be responding to it. But when we can say, I am so curious why every month at this particular time, I am having such a hard time. I am either depressed, sad, antsy, anxious, irritable, whatever it is, lonely, whatever it is, right? So now we can say, there is some kind of pattern that is happening right now that matches a previous pattern somewhere else in my life, but my nervous system is saying, this seems threatening. And that curiosity of trying to just understand, what am I responding to here? That opens a window. And that window is the window between whatever's happening and that very, very quick response into threat and protectiveness and fight or flight. And once we have that curiosity and that window into what is going on, so now we can start saying, like, what is the pattern? Is it touch? Is it that I'm not being touched? Is that the pattern? Or is the pattern that the way I am most easily able to connect to someone has been taken away from me and I'm feeling a little bit floundering on that? Is it, is it that, I don't know, my hormones are dropping and I'm having a physical reaction, which is something that happens? Or is it that I'm nervous about what is going to be when I become a Niddah and how we're going to handle that and how we're going to navigate that, and that uncertainty of what's coming is the pattern, right? But once we can start getting curious about what is the pattern that we're responding to, so now we can say, well, maybe we can create a new pattern. Maybe we can just change it up a little bit so that, yeah, I'm still feeling lonely and but I'm not in fight or flight. I'm able to be in a place of safety and openness and connection and change what my lived experience is around these feelings.
Right. One of the things that we do in secret, I'm in secrets of Niddah mode because like that's what I'm preparing for next week, but also because it literally supports you through this process. One of the things that we do is we go back to your first period and your first Niddah experience because it's so often rooted in earlier, like how you were introduced to it, how like what was your body's response, like the way you feel about your period now is absolutely connected to the first time you got your period. And again, some people had a beautiful experience, some people had a traumatic experience. Same with the first experience of Niddah, how you were introduced to it, how you were taught Kala classes, whatever.
One of the classes that I do is a Kala class, like reboot. It's not a refresher. We're not going over the halachas again. It is completely re-understanding what these terms mean and the historical backgrounds of it, Toma and Sahara back in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, how that applies now, what it meant, what the taboos are that exist now that didn't exist then. So also, like, when we use those words like pure and impure, oh my goodness, is that creating such a muddle in what this means and adding so much unnecessary weight and judgment to this entire process, because it doesn't mean any of those things. One thing that I tell college a lot when I tell them, about becoming a Niddah, and they get really upset that, why all of a sudden do I get married and now I have this new state of Niddah that I have to be in, and I don't want to. I'm like, honey, you have been a Niddah since you're 12 years old. I'm like, it is not a new state. This is the state that you're in. And now you have an opportunity to go to a different
We're the only
state.
people, like if Mashiach comes today, everyone has to go to the mikvah.
Right. And
we're the only people who are holding the process of Tahara in this exile experience. Yeah.
Right. Every so often a video shows up on YouTube of this new mikvah that was discovered around the Beis Hamikdash, in the old city, and everyone gets very excited. And so my son lives in the old city, and every time one of these videos come out, I email to him he's like, Ma, there's 1,000 mikvahs around. Everyone had to go to the mikvah before they went to the Beis Hamikdash. You can't walk without tripping over a mikvah. Everybody went all the time. The streets were separated by people who were tameh and people who were tahar. So
they wore Niddah clothing.
Everyone had to know. But like
everyone knew when you were a Niddah.
The streets, I think, during regular times, the center of the street was for people who were tameh, and the outside of the streets were people who were tahar because they couldn't touch. But during the Shara of Shregalim, when there were so many people around the Beis Hamikdash, they switched the traffic patterns. And now the people who were tahar, they were in the center because there were more of them because everyone was in the mikvah, and the people who were tameh were up on the outside. So there was no judgment. It was just a state. It was like being milchiks or fleishiks. Like, just what are you? So we know what to serve you.
Right.
And that's all that it was. But now, because it has only, it only remains and it only exists as it relates to marriage and as it relates to marital physical intimacy. So it has kind of taken on this like taboo state that we can't talk about it. It's not. It hasn't changed. It's still just a halachic state. But yeah, it's very surprising to be able to know they have been in Niddah all this time and didn't even realize it. And now they have an opportunity to become this kind of like elevated state of like spiritual connectedness, which, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
What are some benefits of the Niddah time is that during non-Niddah time, right, there's a big focus on connection with your spouse, right, and maintaining that connection and building that connection and growing that connection. But really, we are not able to connect to another person if we are not first connected to ourselves.
Exactly. We have to connect. Can we say that louder?
Yes.
This is the whole point of all of this.
Connect to another person if you do not first have a connection to yourself, right? So the benefit of the Niddah time is the ability to really just take some time to connect to yourself so that you now have the ability, first of all, just that's a thing in and of itself, right? That's its own thing, to connect to yourself, to be one and connected to yourself. But once you spend that time maintaining and growing the connection with yourself, so now you have so much greater capacity to connect to the other person. And I think that is a big benefit of that Niddah time, is to turn the focus of connection inward. And many people do not even know what that means, how to go about that, how do we connect to ourselves. And, it's not a quick one sentence answer, but what I would say is, think about how you connected to your spouse, right? What did you do? You went on dates. You spoke. You shared deep truths.
You
had
experiences. 25, 30 years to know yourself first before that meeting.
Right. And now you have, let's say, we're going to use just a standard timeline of 12 days. Do that same process with yourself. Take yourself out on a date on your own.
Go to a friend. Go to a friend.
Go to a pottery store. Whatever speaks to you. And just say, who am I today? Who am I this year? Who am I this month? let me get to know the amazing self that I am, so I know who I am and then who I am showing up as
Yep.
in a little while. But that is, such an untapped
Yeah.
well
Some
of
people are hearing French here.
right. It's like, yeah, use the
Yeah.
time to get to know yourself and to connect to yourself. Another question that sort of came in was how to deal with the anxiety around mikvah night, right? How to get through those 7 days dealing with anxiety. So, I think that question one is, what is the anxiety around mikvah night, which I don't think is really, part of this conversation, perhaps a different
But it is going
conversation.
back to what you said. A lot of this is going to be so personal, individual. Can you tap
Right,
into what it is for you?
right.
Because it's not.
What is my,
We're teaching universal concepts. Yeah, we'll talk.
yeah,
We each do this in our own work and in the classes we give. Okay, so what is Niddah? What can you reclaim here? But also, at least I do this in Secrets of Niddah for sure. It's guiding you to find your own like answers. Like we said, what was your first period experience? What was your first Niddah experience? What is the anxiety for you? What is bringing it up for you? There's so much there that helps you tap into yourself and get to know yourself better.
right, right. If people are anxious about mikvah night,
Yeah.
what is it? What is
Right.
it? What,
And
and you
it's
said,
different
what
for everyone.
happened the
There's no one
first
answer.
one
Right.
or two mikvah nights that
Mm-hmm.
taught you that this is something to worry about,
Or
right?
were you taught that like the set of rules and the checklist in an anxious way of like doing everything? I mean, of course you should do your best and like, take everything
Right.
into care, but there's this like anxious feeling around it, like perfectionism of like, I'm
Mm,
gonna do this wrong and this is
right,
gonna be like there's no like calm in this. There's
right,
tension,
right.
anxiety.
Now, one thing I always teach, I'm like, it is so hard to do this wrong. Like, I can take you right now and throw you in the ocean, and likely many Rabbanim say you're good to go. Like, it is hard to do it wrong. And I think
Yeah.
that, this is, I think just the nature of teachers that we want to, do our best and teach with the most
And
detail
there
and
are
the most
some mikvahs
information.
aren't so good about it. There are some mikvah ladies who only increase the anxiety for people.
Right, right. And,
Yeah.
but when we're talking about like the actual, the Araisa halacha of what needs to be done and what that standard is to actually get through this spiritual transformation, it is a very low bar. It is a very low bar. And like, I tell people, because I work with a lot of, college and women with histories of anxiety and OCD and like bringing in a lot of already existing anxiety. I'm like, you would have to actually be trying to do this wrong
Right.
in order for this not to work. So let's take that away. There's also a lot of anxiety or stress or pressure around when you get home, right?
Right.
Do you
Mhm.
have to, is it mikveh night and now there's a halacha that you have to be together? What if you're not feeling it? What if you're not feeling it emotionally? What if you're not feeling it physically?
Whenever you put pressure together with
Right.
the
Anything.
feminine, or in general, but like it really does not go together.
Right.
So
I think pressure and pleasure
like
cannot
you can be in your
coincide.
feminine mode of receiving and openness and presence when there's like pressure and weight and like things bearing you down.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that anybody who is experiencing anxiety around mikvah, whether it is the prep for the mikvah, whether it is the mikvah itself, whether it's the coming home from the mikvah, um, any way that you can reach out to some kind of speaker, mentor, teacher who can really go through what beliefs and expectations you are bringing into that, because it is not designed to be an anxiety provoking process. So if
Right.
it is creating anxiety, there is likely a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of what your obligations are here.
Someone's saying she
And,
was told that if she doesn't do this right, her husband will die young.
and
I mean,
that's
who's saying
horrific.
these things?
That's
Yeah.
horrific. So this is another reality, I think, and again, part of a bigger topic. I speak about this a lot, especially when I'm speaking to young women who are afraid to date or afraid to like just start this whole process. And there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear around men. There's a lot of fear around everything. And they want, like, why are people teaching from a place of fear? Why are people scaring people? Why do you have to convince someone that their husband's
I
going
mean,
to
it's a
die
bigger
young?
question of Yiddishkeit in general. Like
Right.
is it
And
is
it
it
is.
sound
And
like
this
the
is
monster in the sky, or is it someone that wants a loving relationship
right.
with
But
you? It's
I
how
think
you're
that, I think there's
approaching it.
actually a practical reason. I think the
Yeah.
practical reason why fear is used so often is because as a teacher, when you take personal responsibility for what that person that you are teaching is doing, So now you need to ensure compliance. You cannot rely on bechira. You cannot rely on encouragement. You cannot rely on anything positive because there's no guarantee. You need to rely on the most effective control mechanism that we have, which is fear. So when you are really scaring someone, you are ensuring.
You're also ensuring a traumatic experience.
Yes, you are ensuring. But if you personally feel like my product, right? I am responsible for my product.
I'll tell you why this brings up a whole different topic, but I teach fertility awareness, right? And there's a lot of stakes involved when someone wants to do for natural birth control. You can do it for a lot of other ways as well. But let's say someone cannot get pregnant and they don't want to be on hormones or any of the other, other options. They want to do a natural way. And it's a beautiful way to get to know your body and know when you're fertile. And then in those days, you'll have to, figure out what you can do to prevent pregnancy. So it's a whole process, and I have a 3-month course where I go through everything, and we walk you through the whole process, and I'm here to support fully everything you need, and you have feedback, you have the community. And at the same time, I say this over and over again, you're choosing this, and you have to understand what your responsibility is. My responsibility is to teach you everything clearly, to make sure you have all the information, you have everything you need to set yourself up for success. I am not in your bathroom checking your cervical fluid.
Right.
You are not in the bathroom doing batikas. I know you support women with they have anxiety around it. Sometimes you'll help them through it in the office. Like they'll go to your bathroom. Right. I heard you share that. But in terms of at the end of the day,
not as a college teacher. I don't do that as a college teacher. I do that as an OT, and they sign releases, and it's a very official process.
Yes, exactly. So the point is that at the end of the day, it is still your practice. It's your process. No one else is between you and Hashem, between you and your religious practice. Right. But it is our responsibility to teach you everything very clearly. But the fear is a big problem. Yeah, I hear where it's coming from the teacher's perspective, but I still think it's detrimental.
It's not an effective way. It is not how we are supposed to be practicing from a place of fear, right? Yeah. I see another question that's coming and this is something we got previously, is the postpartum period, where you are having this extended amount of time. And yes, it is.
I remember you had an extended amount of time before that. Hopefully you were not, Niddah. Let's balance it out.
There is a balance. But, again, just reflecting back on that idea, there's a time for different phases. That postpartum period.
Very hard, yeah.
Is a time to connect, again, to reconnect to your own body as separate from this baby, which had been growing in you for quite some time. And now it has left your body. That is a loss. Yes. That is a change. You were one organism.
And again, Niddah and loss are interchangeable.
Right, basically. Right. You were one organism and now you are two. And that is a loss that many women have a hard time recognizing. Why am I feeling sad? You're feeling sad because you just got separated from
and you were pumped up with the most hormones you have in your lifetime, and then you had the biggest drop of hormones that you ever have in your life.
Right, and everything's off the wall. But this is a time to reconnect to yourself, and to connect to the baby, because the baby needs you.
And say yes to everyone that's offering you help. Receive.
Right, it's time to learn that receiving. Do you? Yes. Can I? Yes. Don't even ask me. Just do all the things. Come in and do all the things. But the baby needs you at such a survival primal level. And that is what this time is for. Yeah. That is what this time is for.
And it also helps you heal. When you're bonding with your baby, the hormones are adjusting for you as well.
Oxytocin is flowing. That's what it's for. That's what it's for. So it is difficult, right? We're never going to take away the feeling of, oh my God, I just want to give my husband a hug. We just had a baby together. Yet, of course that's difficult. Of course that is difficult. And you're crying your eyes out and you're going, and all that would help is a hug, and you cannot have one, and that is difficult. And
you should get a massage. You should definitely get a massage.
Right. Well, definitely get the touch. Get the touch in the way that you can, for sure. But to at the same time say, I recognize what this time is for, and this is a productive time for me to give myself, to give my baby, to give our relationship what it needs to catapult us both into the healthiest next couple of months that we can. And I'm going to use this time, even as I am feeling so lonely and lost and I need to hug tremendously, I can also focus on what I am getting. I am getting bonding, I am getting healing, I am getting renewal and reconnection to myself. I am using all of my capacity for touch to this brand new individual who needs this touch to literally keep breathing. Yeah. And that's what this time is for. So it's not like I'm going to turn that postpartum separation into an amazing thing. It is hard.
There's also the connection of what you created together in this live human baby that you have now. There's the
right, and
physical side of
that's a
that.
very emotional thing, and there's space to focus on it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's never about looking at a piece of the cycle and saying, I'm going to turn that frown upside down and I'm going to learn that this is the
There was
best
another
time.
question that came in. So tell me about, like, what can we think of as the pros? And my answer to that is, like, the point is not here to think, oh, let's make this positive. Let's see, what are the pros? Like, there are pros and cons of each phase, always, every season, right? In the summer, it's hot, but it's also warm and sunny. In the winter, it's cold, but it's also, like, there's so many different, you can take anything literally and make pros and cons out of it. That's not even the point here. Like we said in the beginning, it's presence, being with what is. If it's hard for you, be with that hardship. If it's, by the way, like, I think the biggest mind shift for me also was, if Niddah is a struggle, it's really a good sign. Like, what does that say about your relationship, about your marriage, right? It's like, can we, that can be a pro. Like, again, pros, it's really more like how you're approaching it, how you're being present with it. And you'll find for yourself these little gems, these little diamonds that I see Niddah as almost like, and in general, the times of the cycle, like that. This is a little related to the new translation that I'm going to share in Secrets of Niddah about Tam and Tahara. So maybe you'll get a little hint. But the way I see the cycle, there's the dark side and the bright side, right? There's the new moon and the full moon. The menstruation is like this inward time where like, think about the new moon. It's literally absorbing all of the sun's light. It's in full receiving mode and not reflecting anything back outward. And the full moon is reflecting everything fully because it's like so full and so bright and just has so much to give. And this doesn't happen automatically. It's because we're letting ourselves be in the process. So the way I see Niddah and menstruation in general, this like darker part of our cycle, is think of like you're walking into a dark room, and let's say you're walking into like a treasure room. There's like so many treasures there, but you don't see anything yet because you're coming from the blinding sunlight and you're still adjusting. But when you're able to be present and like be in that room, slowly your eyes start adjusting and you're able to make out, oh, there's this and there's that. And like, I see all these treasures here, right? That's literally how I see, if you're looking for pros of Niddah, you're going to get it through being present with the experience.
Right. That's so beautiful. I love that visual of like letting your eyes adjust, because we can relate to that on a physical level. And it's the same thing on that spiritual level.
This is just more recently, like I was going outside and it was sunny and I was putting on sunglasses and I'm like, we're literally blocking the light, but we need that too. Because sometimes it's too much.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think also, a lot of times that the for the energy of Niddah time becomes an energy of no. I can't. We can't. I can't.
But you know how powerful
no.
You know how powerful no is?
No is
what
so
does yes
powerful.
Mean without no?
We cannot say yes until we can say no. This is, I had pillows literally embroidered with that saying. You cannot say yes until you can say no. But at the same time, to also realize Niddah is not just no.
Right.
What are we saying
like
yes
every
to?
time you're saying no, you're saying yes to something else.
Right, you're saying yes to something else.
Yeah.
So, when I have couples who call me who are really, really struggling with harchakos, they're struggling, and I hear so often, I just can't say no anymore. How many times could I say no? I'm like, well, let's stop saying no and let's start saying yes. What can you say yes to? I say yes to the gvura of keeping halacha. I can say yes to that a lot of times. I say yes to connecting to myself on a really, really deep, intimate level. I say yes to connecting to my husband on a much more emotional, intellectual, spiritual level right now, because we need that too. I say yes to giving my body space to, to renew. And we have a lot of yes if we can tap into that. And it's awful living a life of no. No one wants to live a life of exclusively no. But we can realize that no is the doorway to yes. Yeah. And within every no, there is a yes. And when we can find our yes, we can live and embody that experience from such a much more positive, active, participatory place, because it's not what I'm not doing. We can't define ourselves by what we're not doing. We need to define ourselves by what we are doing. And when we know what we can and are doing during each of these phases, so now each phase is a yes to this thing. Each time of life is a yes to this thing, right? And even let's skip ahead 40 years, right? Once we start moving into perimenopause and menopause, and all of a sudden this structure that for many women really kept that spice alive, right? Really kept alive that on and off cycle was a crucial thing in just keeping interest, right? And it's gone now. And now what do I do? Oh my God, I don't have this anymore.
That was one of the questions that came in. Well, they're not going through the cycle of Niddah, let's say, because
right, and
they're pregnant.
Whether it is menopausal or whether it is because of an IUD or whatever it is, when women are not cycling, there can be that loss as well. I don't have that, natural kind of way to build up anticipation. Now what do I do? And
but you have where that's even coming from. Like, we're even having this concept because we're used to this cycle.
Right, exactly. But to say, okay, so that's a no, right? I don't have the off time, so I'm not gonna. But what do I have? What can I still find? What is the yes during this time? Yeah, it may not be what I got used to of that excitement and Mictonite. It's something else. It's not less than. It's different. And when we can tap into, now what can I get from this? So then you're not focused on what you don't have, and you're not defining your experience by what it used to be and it's not anymore. Every experience can be defined by what it is.
Being present with where you're at. Like, okay, so she's asking about pregnancy. How can I still have excitement and passion in my marriage and in the bedroom when there's no pattern of distance and return? And I saw this question before because it came in before the live, and I was even thinking, like, I know for myself when I'm in these stages, I come back to the moon cycle all the time because I'm in this cyclical mindset a lot and have experienced this over and over in my body very consciously. I feel it very strongly. Like, I feel the moon waxing and waning, and I feel my moods and my energy shifting, and it's actually very powerful. If you're connected to that, because women are connected to the moon, it's a very cosmic experience. And again, today's different. We have artificial lighting. We have so many things getting in the way, but see if you can tune into some kind of cyclical rhythm. Maybe you have different emotional patterns, even in pregnancy, even if you're nursing and not having a cycle, even if you're post-menopause. See if you can tune into some cyclical rhythm of, even in the relationship, right? I'm sure any healthy relationship you can relate to, of having times when you're like, oh, there's like some friction, like we have to just and again, being with that and coming through that to the other side is also a reconnection. So this Niddah experience, it's not specifically only, it's almost like this metaphor. And again, I don't see a metaphor as just a sample. I see a metaphor as of an actual experience that's teaching you real life. So it's this metaphor of, there's actually, this pattern shows up all over, everywhere.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to hear something that we say and it's going to change your life. Listen to what we say.
It can be a seed that's planted, and then
and just
your life over time.
Think about it, right? Just think about it. Think about one aspect, one topic during one phase of the cycle, and see how something can be more open, more changing, more freedom, and where it takes you.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're having, actually, on Wednesday, Rosh Chodesh Av, we do specifically in the 9 days because of the Galus Geula Exile Redemption cycle that so closely mirrors this. We were talking about this a few times, how the yes and the no, and you can have redemption without exile, you can have true Tahara without being in the Niddah space. There's all of it comes, it's a full cycle. And we're starting on Wednesday. It's going to be for 14 days, a 14-day immersion, and from Rosh Chodesh Av to Tu B'Av, like literally from new moon to full moon. And this month specifically, I feel like it's so powerful. Like on Tisha B'Av, you're looking for things to watch or things to and it doesn't have to be something depressing. It's like we're having these classes where you're actually connected to something physical happening in your body that you can elevate you in a whole new way. And a lot of these things of actually experiencing your first cycle, your first Niddah experience, going back to what it is for you. Like, I guide you through that a lot. You'll see it in my link in bio as well. I'll talk about it more in my stories. You'll see my posts and reels about it. But this conversation was really just meant to open, okay, so what does it even mean? Because I feel like people don't, if you want to know the real secret of Niddah, a lot of what we spoke about, presence, being with what is, the exile redemption process that's happening. And you're like, why do women hold the secret to redemption? Because we also hold exile in our bodies. It doesn't life and death are interconnected. Exile redemption are interconnected.
Two sides of the coin. It's all two sides of the same coin, right? Yeah. And for me, I'll just speak to this, this Kala reboot.
You had a really horrible culture experience. Go to Rikki and redo it.
Right. Just we need to redefine, re-understand, take away judgment, take away taboo, take away obligation, and just reconnect and re-explore in a very, very different way from a much more historical, broader spectrum than this is what you got to do and get through this month, right? As perfectly as possible. So Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Pessy, for inviting me on. This has
Thank you
been
for
an
coming.
absolutely
We're
wonderful
so happy
experience
this
and something
worked.
I hope we can do again. Hopefully, now that we have all the technical stuff dealt with, we can do it much more smoothly.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, and definitely you can follow both of us. We talk about this all the time. You'll hear more on this topic. If this piqued your interest and there's
Great.
more, there's always more.